Hello and welcome back to That's Entertainment, the show where we look at all the interesting entertainment news from last week, this week. We didn't do that this week. This week we focused on our first series of webinars called The Audience Project, the Future of Film Distribution and VOD. This is a part of an exciting series of webinars that we'll be conducting globally. Our next event will be looking to launch around the 9th of March, and that one will be looking more at the production and self-distribution sides of the business. But anyway, more of that later. Yesterday's event was a huge success. We had over 350 people in attendance from 680 people registered. And our board, which was made up by Annie, Tor, Natalie, Casper, Anne-Marie, and Klaus, worked through a series of interesting questions after a short presentation by me on the state of the market. And we've got some clips and highlights from that while we're busy building the landing page and resource page where you'll be able to download all the assets, that's the video files and the presentation itself, which we'll be releasing hopefully very shortly. Anyway, enjoy, and we'll be in touch again soon with more shows.
Well, what we saw, especially starting back in last March and April, was that we realized that new people are actually finding our EST and TVOD services, and the reasons were obvious. It was accelerated by the COVID, and of course the reason that the movie theaters were not open.
So we did a campaign for Tenet, for example, that had a theatrical release during Christmas, and it performed 50% better than we would expect. And during when the cinemas were closed, we also did some promotions just on our platform for those titles who went directly to PVOD, and saw that a movie like Invisible Man was among the most watch-listed titles in that period of time, regardless that it wasn't a really a typical blockbuster movie.
Pre-COVID, that actually one of the biggest problems for transactional home entertainment was that people didn't know that it was actually possible to digitally rent or buy movies. They couldn't mention stores. They didn't know how, or So if anything, I think the past 10 months have actually grown that market.
2020 was indeed a breakthrough year for TVOD and EST to the mass market. Overnight, as the pandemic began, closure these markets, everything doubled, and it was amazing. And that said, we were indeed hit by the corona headaches in the third quarter without having any current releases, as everything was paused in Klaus's theatrical window. So, but yes, I think what we see now is truly, as Marie says, audience is engaged as never before, and this is a result of many years trying to educate the consumers to non-linear on-demand viewing, and this is now becoming a global movement for sure.
Big data transformed to events is what marketing should be all about. So you need to use the data to create engagement, meaning that all of your possible viewers and everyone who's sort of interested in cinema, before they go to the screen, when they are in the foyer and around it and afterwards, they are your possible customers, and you need to engage them. And creating a community also creates more events that you can capitalize on.
Is that I'm not entirely sure that we should disregard or discount the theatrical window. What we've seen on the releases that we've had, I acknowledge in full that the market has been really struggling, but for the releases we've had, we've seen a general overperformance, and obviously not just for local films, but by and large for local language films in our region, but also for the international films. So is that going to be a new norm? Not necessarily.
Yes, exactly. I think that the box office measurements are so established, and it's like this pressure kettle when it comes to that first or second opening weekend. And those like industry rules will probably stay the same, but I think it poses an issue when it comes to user engagement when we talk about the VOD market. What makes a title successful?
So I guess you have kind of almost like a binary situation where you have a measure of success that's the immediate impact success, which is, you know, the thing that you currently get with a box office release over the weekend release, the first weekend and then the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then you have the customer lifetime value as a measure of success, which is the longer term windowing opportunities and licensing opportunities across that. So I guess those two, probably the second one will come further into the fore, but you'll have to balance both to really accurately capture the value of a title over time.
A particular movie, I have no idea where it's indeed available, and I simply start searching the big web. The chance that I end up on a pirate site as a consumer is there simply because the pirate sites also look very much like the legal services. So it is indeed a challenge, but we have to be better as a business to make sure that the content is available, of course.
Everyone in the value chain of film needs to sort of take a good look at where they stand and how may I do my part to make the pie bigger so we can all eat more, right? And data will be a big thing linked into that. And then we need to understand what's our fair share. And that's going to be a discussion, as always is.